Hello, everybody. This is the Enough to Keep Going podcast. I'm your host, TileMaster999, for episode number 438 on Monday, June 22nd, 2026. That's right. We're a day late. Hopefully not $1 short. Well, maybe a few dollars short if you're trying to get a steam machine, but we'll talk about that later. With me tonight, I have one Mr. DBQ Hams. DB, how are you?
That was a perfect intro. Nice job. A little bit of joke tying into the news segments. Glad to be here. We made it through Father's Day on the other side and plenty of games and news to talk about tonight. So glad you're in the chair, Tao.
Yes, I learned from you, DB. I learned from you. Yeah, that was the reason
The cheesy end off. Yeah, way to go.
Yeah, that's right. The reason we were late this week is because we had Father's Day here in the U.S. So we had soggy baseball, some grilling yesterday. Game Logic, I don't know what your day was like yesterday. Hopefully it was a little bit better than ours. How you doing?
Weather was fine. It was just a quiet day at home for me, which is exactly what I asked for.
There you go.
Nice.
That's good.
Can't ask for much more. All right, we're going to get started here.
I did have the honor of once again viewing Spider-Man 3. So you guys know that we're on this MCU adventure. We're into the multiverse saga now.
Oh, so you're like original Tobey Maguire dancing Spider-Man 3, right?
So because one of my kids probably has genetically been past my OCD, they insisted on seeing because they know that the old Spider-Man are in No Way Home, which is our next movie. So they refuse to be able to watch No Way Home without watching all three of the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies and the two Andrew Garfield ones.
That's perfect, right? Like that is a comic book lover's paradise, passing on that you need the connective tissue to your kids.
Yes, except that road goes through Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3, and so I was reminded once again that it is one of the worst comic book movies ever made.
That's a bold statement. I don't know about that.
I don't know. Roger Corman's Fantastic Four is going to challenge you.
There's a group that X3, Apocalypse, X-Men Apocalypse, and as you mentioned, right though, I struggle with the Fantastic Four movies because first of all, I love Ian Grofeld, who I first saw as midshipman. I can't remember. He's Horatio Hornblower, which I just have a huge fondness of as childhood stories. And so the Fantastic Four movies get a little bit of grace for me. And I feel like
not that bad. Even like the mid-teens reboot, it's better than X3, that's for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
I still haven't watched that the mid-teens Fantastic Four. I'll have to check it out one day.
It's
a good cast.
It's a novel idea.
I know they went a little bit different with the origin story in that one. Yeah.
I think they had the best of intentions. In my mind, at least Kate Mara and Michael B. Jordan, I think actually do a really great job in their casting. The unfortunate thing is, I think William Teller?
I think it's Teller. Yeah,
I think so. It's Teller. Yeah,
he has become because I just recently watched The Gorge with him and Anya Taylor-Joy. I can't remember her name, but Anya Taylor-Joy, who
Princess Peach. Just call her Princess Peach.
Yes,
she does the voice for Princess Peach. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I first met, became aware of her from the chess movie that she did with Netflix.
The Queen's something. Yeah.
Queen's was it Queen? Is it Queen's Gambit?
Yes.
Yeah, Queen's Gambit. Yeah.
So he has actually and again, The Gorge is not a great movie. It's a quirky movie and a really neat concept of an idea. He has grown into himself as an actor in a very inspiring way. And I'm not saying his performance was great, but where he was as a younger actor and where he is now is just a chasm of different. So I'm actually really excited if he gets cast in some really good roles with good in good meaty movies. He was just in the Fantastic Four. He was not there yet. He was the old William Teller, and so Kate Mara and Michael B. Jordan, in my mind, are shining gems in that movie. The rest of it, like I said, had the best of intentions. That's
Watch Michael B. Jordan in most anything. So
I'm sorry, what's that?
I'll watch Michael B. Jordan in most anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Thrifty and Soldier for Life, thanks for joining us in the chat. We were just starting off, and we haven't even talked any games yet, so you're right on time. All right, let's get started with the show. First off, segment 1 is the main GX stories, and I forgot to change my background for the second game I'm going to talk about here, but I'm going to start off. I got a couple games I've been playing, actually, this past week. First one, really quick, StarSeeker Astroneer Expedition. Is my first game here that I've been playing last, I'd say like 2 to 3 days now, over the weekend, basically. And this is I guess, a sequel to Astroneer. I never played the original Astroneer, which I believe is kind of like a survival space game. And this is kind of multiplayer. This new one, StarSeeker, is a multiplayer. I would say multiplayer focused. So I haven't just been playing it solo, and I seem to be fine so far, at least. But basically, you are one of the Astroneers, which I guess are like some kind of robots or automatons or something that get sent out throughout the galaxy or in space and stuff. I guess is the lore kind of behind the Astroneer games. And you're basically kind of doing... They're basically like retrieval missions and just kind of different things you got to do on this one planet so far that they have that you're able to go to. And it looks like there's a community challenge right now where after it opens up, I think it opens up another planet. So I don't know if that's always going to be like that or if they're just going to add planets, as they come up. But first planet so far, you can kind of... You go up, you have a little spaceship, and actually there's like pretty decent customization too, even on the spaceship and on your character. But you get into your spaceship, it flies off, you drop on the planet, and then you kind of go off and do whatever missions that you had received from various people on the kind of the space station that's kind of flying around it right now. Kind of like, it's basically kind of like an extraction, but you're not... It's not PvP though, it's all PvE, at least for now, as far as I've seen. I haven't seen anybody like killing each other. I'm sure there's probably a way. People always find a way, but I think it's more co-op focused. So from the little bit I've seen, like kind of online different communities, I guess it's not getting rave reviews. I guess there's some issues. I haven't really seen any issues when I've been playing. I've had a couple of shutdowns or kind of just booted me back to the main screen, but I get that every once in a while. And I'm playing this on the Switch too. I believe it's on everything right now, PC and other consoles. But other than those kind of two times that it happened, I haven't really seen any issues. A little bit of slowdown when you with the animation with the ship kind of leaving and coming back. It's almost like that issue I've talked about with MLB The Show, where the kind of in between animations are kind of almost laggy sometimes, but here it's just kind of the ship animations. But it's, I mean, other than that, when I'm on the actual planets and gathering resources, because you can kind of terraform the planet. Basically, you can kind of dig through the planet, kind of like in I was gonna say Star Fox. I'll talk about that later too. No Man's Sky, where you can deform the planet, dig down, you can get materials or anything like that. There's different plans so far. There's been missions that you can scan or pick up the various fruit or whatever from these plants. But there's been some... I don't want to really say combat. You can kind of take out some of the mobs that are on the planet, but you can also just kind of... You hit them enough times, and it's kind of like a little... I guess like a stamina meter almost for them, where you get it down to 0 and it kind of like knocks them out, and then you can like tranquilize them and then like kind of grab resources for them, or you can just straight up take them out. But I guess you don't get as much when you do that. So I've just been putting them into sleep so far. And then also, like when you're kind of going around the planet, there's other little pockets of I don't know, like crash ships or like supply drops or something you can kind of scan and get stuff from, and just take back. Not maybe necessarily that you need for your challenges, but they're just kind of extra things that you can kind of bring back and either sell or you just keep. I've just been keeping everything so far because I haven't had a chance to kind of look up like what I'm really supposed to do with all this stuff. Like there's a lot of stuff, different stuff I've been finding, but and then there's other little challenges sometimes. Like there's like a little pod that you pick up this device and you have to get it to like the highest point on the map or whatever, or at least where you're at, kind of stuff like that. And you can work with other people too, like if they're in your group or even just like random people I've done that with before too, and just kind of get it up to the tallest hill. So kind of, a la Destiny back in the day, Destiny 2. Speaking of Destiny, I think last week or a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I'm having a good time with it so far. Like I said, I haven't really run into too many issues, and graphically, it's kind of it's pretty much like the other Astroneer, I believe, kind of cartoony-ish graphics and style. So it's not that bad. But yeah, that's StarSeeker, and I'm gonna try it. I want to try to get some co-op going with somebody, either just randoms or whatever. When you kind of queue up, like when before you're about to leave the planet, it does put you like at a screen where it shows like 4 pods, almost like Helldivers. But I never see anybody else join the group, so I don't know if I'm just not waiting long enough, or because you hit that screen and then you can hit ready, and then usually within like 10 or 15 seconds, like it'll just shoot me off. So maybe I just got to kind of stay there, maybe wait for a queue to for people to come in. But I've just been kind of just jumping in real quick just to do some of the challenges and missions. So other than that, yeah, I mean that's pretty much, like I said, I've only had a few days so far, so I want to kind of jump into it a little bit more. But before I jump into my next game, I want to see if you guys have any questions or comments on it.
I'm very interested in your next game and kind of what got you to pick it up and how's it been. So I'm okay on Astroneer. Let's talk about Adventures of Elliot.
Game Logic, anything before I move on?
Just one curiosity. So this game originally, it really has its start grounded on PC, right?
I'm not as far as like release or just like the Astroneer kind of games in general.
Yeah, Astroneer games in general.
Oh, I believe, yeah. I think originally the first Astroneer I think was like, yeah, originally on PC, and I know I came to the consoles later on. I just never picked it up.
Okay,
I never had a chance to play it.
This is a Devolver Digital joint. Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, I think I was like mildly conscious that like the Expedition rendition, right, was kind of more specifically targeted to be a little more console friendly. I was just curious, like if you haven't played the StarSeeker games, if you haven't played the Astroneer games before, why you chose to, like, is this part of there's stuff that I'm buying on Switch 2 because I'm enamored with the Switch 2, right? So like I'm kind of, there are certain things that I picked up and I'm like, oh, this would be cool to have on Switch 2. Like it's not necessarily like because this is the place, I should play it or where I'd you know what I mean? So was that kind of your motivation for getting it on Switch 2 or?
Yeah, I mean, I think I might have mentioned this before, like 99% of the time, or maybe a little less, but I'm playing on my Switch 2 most of the time now. Sometimes when I'm at my desk, like here on my setup, I'll play stuff like Marvel Rivals because I don't have that on Switch 2 and, Battlefield 6 and stuff like that. But for the majority of the time, I'm on my Switch 2, so I'm always looking for, if there's a Switch version of this game or that game. So for right now, at least, hopefully within the next few years too, the Switch 2 versions will come out fairly, soon, if not day and date, like a lot of stuff has. And then I had been interested in Astroneer. Like I said, I just never picked up the original one. And I was like, oh, this one's, looks like, it can be kind of fun because it's kind of retrieval, kind of survival-ish game. And, I've been, especially the retrieval stuff, I've been kind of getting into more with like distraction stuff I've been playing. So I was like, oh, it's kind of, a perfect kind of a combination. And, cozy because, like I said, there's no PvE as far as I can tell right now, or if that's even ever going to be a thing, which doesn't look like it. I mean, I know Astroneer 2, even I think you could play co-op when you're playing that game, so without battling other people. So yeah, it just kind of seemed right up my alley.
So Game Logic's question leads to something that I was curious about, as you were talking about playing with other people and kind of jumping in and having other people in your instance. Looking it up here, that Astroneer it's cross-platform, so your accounts carry over, but the Switch does not support crossplay. So does Switch 2 support crossplay? But
I thought it did. I thought I saw somewhere that it did. I didn't really look into it too closely. I think I might have just been like looking at just like a quick Google search, and
yeah, from what I'm seeing, it looks like Switch players can only play other Switch players. But
Interesting. Yeah, because when you're on the planet, you can actually see other people, even if they don't, they hadn't queued into your team, your squad.
Okay.
So it's like, yeah, there's always people like running around, but those could just be Switch players, I suppose. Although I don't know, it seems kind of weird though, because the community, like I mentioned, the community quest that's going on. I think you have to hit like 1 million points or tokens or whatever their like in-game thing is. I mean, it seems to be going. It seems to be getting up there. I didn't check today. I hadn't played today, or I didn't get a chance to play last night. I think it was at maybe close to 400,000 at that point. And like I said, I only played a few days, so I guess maybe that many Switch players would be playing. So,
but that seems possible that they could have that tally running across all platforms and have it kind of unified that way. Yeah. Well, I'll be curious to hear as you poke around it a little bit more if you're encountering people that are just on Switch or if it is crossplay.
Yeah, because I know like too when it has like in the corner like the Switch 2 like symbol or whatever. So
right, yeah, you usually get an icon next to somebody to give you a hint of where they're at.
Yeah, what they're at. So that's interesting. All right, so the next game, yes, I've been playing as our background here is on the show, The Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales, which when I told my wife what the title was, she was like, "Really, The Adventures of Elliot?" Like, okay, like, hey, I didn't name the guy. I'm just playing the game. But kind of like Thrifty mentioned, it is kind of old school Zelda-like, but in that 2D HD, excuse me, kind of 3D style. What was it? Bravely Default, I think, was kind of one of the first ones that kind of came out like that, and that was. That and the reason it was one of the reasons because it was that HD 2D because I had never really played any of those type of games.
Octopath Traveler is what you're thinking of. Bravely Default.
Octopath Traveler, yeah,
more chibi style. Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I knew it was kind of in that vein. But I never played Octopath because I think Octopath wasn't that not squad based. What am I trying to say? Like when it takes turns basically in your battle.
Turn-based RPG. Yep.
Yeah, turn-based. But this one is just like kind of straight up, you're hitting the button and you're playing. It's more of an action RPG. It's not turn-based. So I was like, ooh, and I really like that style. I was just like that, the turn-based always kind of turned me off. So I've been playing a lot actually of this past week and enjoying a lot. And it is. I didn't play a lot of like the original Zeldas, but it reminds me of those, those type of games. I kind of just have this old world where you're kind of going around and there's enemies and different caves and I guess they'd be dungeons like in Zelda that you can go down into and battle all these creatures. And I haven't had any, I guess they'd be just like mini bosses because they were just like caves that I found while I was going across the world and like this big robot kind of look like he's in, it's like an armor, but he's sentient. I've battled that thing a couple times. He had a couple different play styles. I think the first time I fought him, he was more melee, but then the second time when he was just shooting at me, he had ranged attacks. So the story is pretty interesting. There's kind of a time mechanic to it, without going to spoilers or anything. But I'm having a good time with it. I'm liking it a lot. It is, kind of that like pixel art, which it's fine with me. Like I've never, been one of those guys who's like, oh, it's pixel art. I'm not complaining of those, but I think that the kind of 3D HD side of it too, just makes it, it just looks beautiful. Like I'm playing this on Switch too. Also, once again, it's very pretty. It's just a really pretty game. I'm going to these caves where it's like a waterfall of sand, and it just looks gorgeous. Like it's just like wow, it's like pretty amazing. And then of course you have like a regular waterfall, and just the environments themselves so far have been pretty nice. But yeah, been, to me, nothing like groundbreaking or anything like that. But for somebody who doesn't really play those type of games, I'm having a good time with it.
So weapons wise, is it like Zelda where you're getting different weapons in different areas, or is it like a RPG where you're leveling up, or weapons have a rarity to them? What does that kind of skill progression look like?
Yeah, you're definitely getting different weapons. Like you start with just a sword, of course, because that's like every adventurer starts with this sword. And then I have seen so far like a spear, boomerang. I think I just got a bow and arrow that I just got. I don't know if you can update the weapons themselves, at least not that I've seen. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I haven't really seen any way to update them, but maybe there is. I just haven't seen it yet. I'm pretty early on still. I just got, like I said, there's a time mechanic, and I just kind of got to that. So I've gotten to the next area that I can play in. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to say anything without kind of giving stuff away. But yeah, you definitely are collecting different weapons, kind of like in Zelda, the original Zelda. So how he had his trick shot and boomerang. He had a boomerang too, I believe, if I remember correctly, in the original one. But
is there like a looter aspect to it, or like, and when I say that, like, so there's Legend of Zelda and there's Diablo, and like Legend of Zelda, at least the newer, more modern games, because I haven't played like the older Zeldas, like the inventory is so small that I don't really feel like there's a huge loot loop to it. Like it's a fairly like, you need to find the stuff that is like really, really, really the stuff you want to use. Then you kind of get rid of everything else, right? Whereas in Diablo, it's like you just traipse across the realm and you just like collect oodles of stuff. And like I spend time just like swapping weapons just for the sake of swapping weapons, right? Just to try cool stuff out. So like which end of that spectrum is it on?
yeah, it's more you're getting the weapons as you kind of progress through the story. Like it's not like obviously like a looter like Diablo, and then so far with like the weapons I had mentioned. I mean, they have their plus and minuses. Like I just got the spear. I've been kind of using that more, but I'm thinking, maybe I want to go back to the sword, because obviously with the spear you're just going forward all the time, and you have kind of like a thrust when you hold the buttons. There's usually like a secondary thing if you hold the button, the attack button. With the spear, you kind of just do like a charge, but it's because of my whatever you want to call it. There's like grass and pots and stuff everywhere, so I have to hit those. You get all these. I was going to call them rupees, but they're not rupees because it's not Zelda. But you get money and gems out of them. So, and then they always they respawn like when you leave there and come back. So it's like, oh god. So now I got to do it again. So I've been kind of getting better with that. Like just when I first get in the area, I'll do that, and then try not to do it too much as I'm progressing through the story and have to kind of going back and forth, which kind of one of the things I guess that I kind of didn't like about Zelda or games like this. Can you kind of go back and forth between areas and stuff like that, almost kind of Metroidvania style, but it's not too bad so far in this game. So it seems pretty linear so far. Like there's the first region that you go in, and I did a little bit of exploring. Excuse me. And I think I might actually miss some stuff, but I think I can go back eventually, or I think actually anytime now because of the time mechanic. But I haven't really gone back yet. I'm just kind of just plowing through the story right now. But yeah, just to your original point, yeah, it's. I think it just depends on what your play style wants to be. And the other thing with the boomerang, I had switched to the bow for a little while. I was like, it's all right, but I like the boomerang because it like it'll spin for like a second or two and like kind of continually hit somebody and then come back to you, and it'll hit anybody that's in the path too. So I was like, I kind of like that better, even though it is a little weaker than the bow. So I've kind of gotten out of that mindset too. Like sometimes just because it's more powerful, like I don't have to use it. So I've been playing with like the different weapons so far.
So you've talked about the time mechanic twice, without or as much as you want to go into in terms of spoiler territory. But does that impact gameplay as well? Like if you're moving backwards or forwards, are you moving in the same geographic area, and so your landscape is changing, or things that were accessible are now not accessible?
Yeah, it's completely different so far. The first time, I don't know if you do it more than once, but doing this time mechanic or time travel, I'll just say time travel because I'm sure they've probably shown it in trailers and stuff, but it's not actually a time mechanic like you're controlling time or anything. But yeah, the area I was in like completely changed once I got into the new timeline or time period, and I just got to that one, so I've only seen a couple areas so far. So but even the outside of it, like when I came out of the area I was in where the time stuff happened, like it was completely different. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So it's not like not like just the same area with like better a better atmosphere or anything. It was just like completely different. So which was kind of cool. Like it's it shows like there's time has passed within where I came from. or went back, depending on if I was going to the past or future. I won't say that. I won't say that much.
Fair enough. Game Logic, thanks for grabbing Thrifty's comment there for the audio listeners. Thrifty says Adventures of Elliot is really good, not groundbreaking, but it is everything I wanted from a Square Enix Zelda title.
Yep.
That's great.
Definitely.
That's and the reviews have been pretty solid, other than a few outliers here and there, but seems like the reception has been pretty solid.
Yeah, I saw I think maybe like 1 or 2 10s, but then mostly like 8s and 9s for the most part. Yeah, like you said though, like a few 6s or 7s and stuff like that, which is still in my book, it's still good, so still playable.
And Tao, being a shooter player who at one point had cured himself of the impulsive need to reload after any engagement, not wait for the magazine to be empty. Like I cured myself of that for a little while, and then it came back, and I couldn't cure myself of it the second time. I also suffered from the incessant need in an action RPG to destroy every pot on the screen out of the potential that it had some trinket of treasure in it, which is also very similar to having the compelling need to shoot any exploding barrels on a top-down isometric shooter. I will say I have cured myself of that need to break every single pot on a screen. I've been recently playing Diablo 4. I have just been like running across the landscape and like ignoring pots unless like
too many things to break in that game.
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel
not enough reward coming out of those. Yep.
Yeah, the bad thing with this game though is like when it does respawn, like it does give you stuff again. Like a lot of games that'll happen, but it doesn't give you anything. Like you just kind of you can just break it. But here it actually does keep giving you gems, so you can kind of just go back and forth if you wanted to, and just get as many gems as you wanted, I suppose. But yeah, I do it like once or twice. I just do it like twice, and then I'm not going to do it like 3 or 4 times. I was like, I'll just keep going. It's not that bad. So yeah, that's Adventures of Elliot, the Millennium Tales. Any other comments or questions on that one? Oh, all right, DB, take it away for your Next Fest demos you've been playing.
All right. So last week was Steam Next Fest, and I'm just going to hit on a handful of them here. I downloaded and played between my PC and Steam Deck 20, 24, somewhere in there, different demos over the course of the week. Lots of bits and pieces. I filtered through platformers and Metrovanias and racing games and sports games. And so a couple that I want to highlight here, some we've talked about based on the Summer Game Fest coverage. So Fading Echo is coming out. It's a 3D platformer. It's coming out later in July. It's by New Tales, which is out of London, I believe. No, Paris. Former Activision Blizzard veterans. New Tales. This is got a story from they founded it back in 2022. They released another game earlier this year. A 3D platformer, kind of top down, more platforming, where this one is more kind of action platforming, kind of combat. But the key conceit here is that you have the ability to, it's a very elemental based game that you're moving around in what you think in terms of a 3D platformer, a 3D action game kind of viewpoint, but then for certain puzzles or to weaken certain enemies, right now in the demo there's fire and water, and after kind of the initial tutorial you're warped through and basically become in addition to being a human, you can transform into these kind of spirits, a water spirit, fire spirit, things like that. And so it allows for some puzzle platforming in that way, which also then ties into combat. And another game that Tao, you and I both looked at during Summer Game Fest was Dusk Fade. This is coming out in August. Dusk Fade is very much a 3D platform action, kind of feels kind of Zelda-y, very kind of PlayStation 3 vibes, but the animation and the pre-rendered cutscenes are like Kena worthy, like in terms of the quality of them, in terms of the what is that, Bridges of Cana or Spirits of Cana from PlayStation 5. Looks great. Plays like what you think 3D PlayStation 3 era platformer. This is by Fireshine Games. That's the publisher. And also part of the developer. They've also have Denshin Attack, which is that kind of skateboarding bus game that's coming out next month, and just released Far Far West last month as well. Then Killer Aces, which I talked about, that's a volleyball game, a full-on 6-on-6 volleyball game, which as somebody who enjoyed video game volleyball all the way back on the NES and can remember getting Kings of the Beach for Christmas one year, and it plays really well. It's a lot of timing based in terms of bump set spike aspects and directional. I like the developer. The developer also did kind of a blitz take on kind of low poly NFL football a couple years back called Sunday Rivals. And then on the football genre area, I played a deck builder game for football called 4th and Goal. And it's very similar to that basketball deck building game that I played last summer. This is where you've got a certain number of drives and you've got different plays and percentages, and sometimes you can have modifiers, and you're trying to score a certain number of points within a certain number of turns, depending. It's a run-based game, but it is also, I played it more than many of the games because it was one of those where, like, I just want to play another. I can make that drive. Sure, you can do that again. And the logic behind it is pretty fun, because if you run the same play too many times, the percentage of it trails off, and you pick a play before you see what the defense lines up as, and sometimes you have a hot route that you can call, and so it does a pretty good job of translating play calling into a deck builder. Another sports game that I played, which is very passive, is called Caddy. Caddy is a single developer. It was by Justin Sane, and Caddy is you play as the caddy. And so all you're really doing is picking the club for it's a very low polygon. It looks like almost, Atari 7200 type of graphics. And the whole piece is you tell which club based on the lie and how far from the hole. And you can say, when you get to the putter, you can say, a tap, a hard putt, you can add some, encourage a fade or a draw, but it's not, there is some randomness in the follow through. And so it was kind of fun to play that. And it looks like it's going to be $4 on Steam when it comes out, is what I could see so far. So two other games just quick to talk about. Alpha Nomos. Alpha Nomos is a small little game from a studio, Ribcage Games, about 6 developers. And it is a 3D kind of action game, but all rhythm based. And so a couple years ago, I played a game called Soundfall, where it's a twin stick shooter, but you're shooting on rhythm. And your on rhythm shots do more damage than your off rhythm shots. And this takes it kind of plays in that same way with a 3D action game in terms of a heavy and a light combat and a dash and a dodge. And you're doing it, if you're doing it on the beat, you're doing more damage and creating combos. And if you break, if you're off beat, you can still attack, but it doesn't do much damage, or you can't quite dash out of the way far enough if you dash on, do a dodge off beat. And so it's a cool concept, and the music was good. The setup in terms of, played it on the Steam Deck. The setup was really simple in terms of latency and pretty consistent, but it playing on the normal difficulty has a very tight window to catch that on the beat. But it does give you some degrees of difficulty that make that window a little more forgiving as well. And then finally, another game that I played on the Steam Deck, Marsupilami 2. So this is a game from Microids out of France. Marsupilami is a longtime comic book cartoon character. The first game came out back in 22, I think, but it's Donkey Kong Country. And so if you enjoy, a 2D high graphic Donkey Kong Country like platformer, Marsupilami's coming out this fall, and I think it's like $40 for the full game. And it's a perfect Donkey Kong Country knockoff, and really sound, tight platforming. So those are a couple of quick games there.
Back to the volleyball game for a second. Do you actually move your character, or is it just more just hitting the buttons, the right buttons at the right time?
You are, at least in the games that I've played so far, you are hitting the buttons and doing a directional in terms of where you're going to spike, or hitting different buttons to pass to different people. And so it is lining you up on the court, so you don't have to move around to try to get to the right spot. That it becomes much more timing based, because it's, you're not moving back and forth to make sure you're in line with where the ball is. It's, at least that's the way it plays from the demo.
Okay.
So it simplifies it, but also the speed of the timing between a bump set spike, it goes pretty quick. And the ability to, one of the things that I found challenging is with 6 people on the court, when you're setting, you have a choice of like 3 different people to set to. And so you're not only keeping track of what button to push to set to the right person, but you're looking at the other side to see what their defense looks like in terms of where there might be a hole. And so it becomes, which is true in volleyball, right? Like, you need to have an awareness of where the other team is in order to figure out who's going to have the best play on the ball.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I remember seeing that one. I don't think I chimed in when you were talking about it during our Summerfest. So, Game Logic, any questions on any of those? No? All right, DB, if you want to stay on the mic, we'll head into segment 2 for our main news headlines. And the big one that came up today, DB.
Well, this is why it wasn't about Father's Day. Really, we had the inside track that we were going to delay our podcast just in time for Steam to announce and release orders for the Steam machine. And so, yes, the Steam machine orders went live today. We've got plenty of news stories out there around it. Digital Foundry's got a review up. Let's start with some basics. That the straight up, the base model is going to go for about $100,049 for a 512 gigabyte. The 2 gigabyte model is going to go for $1,349 or $1,349. Looking over at Digital Foundry.
So you just 512 gigabyte, 2 terabyte. I think you said 2 gig. I think you said 2 gigabyte when you got to the terabyte.
Oh my gosh! Yes, thank you. Yes, 2 terabyte. Thank you. That would be a whole lot of money for 2 gigabytes. Yes, so 2 terabytes. Yes. It is M2 storage. Let's see what else here we've got. Memory is 16 DDR5. We've got a power draw at 30 watts, 110. Graphics core is an AMD RDNA 3, a Navi 33 processor. The CPU is an AMD Zen 4, clocks up to 4.8 gigahertz in terms of its speed. It's 8 gigabytes on the graphics core in terms of VRAM. Digital Foundry, a lot of other places are impressed with what's all under the hood, but the kind of quick take seems to be that in order to keep it all in the form factor and the price point, it is has struggled to hit 60 frames per second on some new releases. So Kotaku talks about IGN getting Cyberpunk and Forza 6 to run, Horizon 6 to run at 60 frames. Death Stranding 2 was at 45 frames. 007 First Light was just under 60 frames. So Digital Foundry talks about 1440p is a viable resolution in terms of trying to find a balance as putting it up. So lots of news out there. I haven't had a chance to dig through everything, but I think that this is the this feels like not only the big news of the day, but until we have some strong confirmation on what's happening over at Microsoft, this it will give people plenty to talk about for a little while. It's not a surprise in the price. Like Valve was telegraphing this. I mean, the fact that they upped the Steam Deck prices to, the higher end Steam Deck model was up over $900 or around $900. It's given hardware costs, it's not a surprise at all. I think it makes it still a tough sell for somebody. Like if you're looking to get into PC gaming and you're dropping $1,000, this is potentially not a bad buy at $1,000. But also, if you're looking to get into PC gaming, you're probably looking for something that has more modability than a Steam machine. And if you're looking to have PC games on your, it feels like in a weird spot for me. Like, and I get the price point in terms of what it needs to be, but I don't know how it draws people who don't already have a console to the PC market, because the price is that what it needs to be, to break even or to make some money, but is not necessarily an immediate impulse buy for somebody. So I'm curious on your thoughts, gentlemen. I think, I'm still kind of chewing on this as I saw it come up this afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, personally, for me, I was always kind of on the fence just because I was like, I mean, I don't know. I was thinking maybe this can, replace my my Xbox, since I'm kind of, getting away from that right now, at least for now. But then also thinking about even before all this and before the prices and stuff was like, well, I can't really play like some of the games that, the multiplayer games that I like to play on this, just because, SteamOS and doesn't play good with some of the security
Sure, the anti-cheat
software
aspects.
anti-cheat stuff. So it's like, well, I can't play Fortnite, I can't play which I haven't really played much actually the last 3 months, but like Rocket League I play a ton of, like I mentioned before, Battlefield 6 I like to play that on my PC when I'm on it, and I wouldn't be able to play that because of the anti-cheat and just other other games of that ilk. And this price is like and some people might say, 512, I'll buy it and then I could just upgrade it, but price of SSDs though, they'll be going up and probably staying up for a while, if not forever, because I keep seeing, when all this blows over, everything's going to come down. It's not going to come down. Like I don't think it will. Just personally, just because the more memory gets out there and more SSDs start getting out there, I highly doubt it's going to come down. If it does, it's not going to be back to where it was, a year ago, 2 years ago. So just me personally, that's how I kind of how I've seen things in the past, like when they go up and are promised, to come back down, and it just never does. But like I said, that's for me personally. And I wasn't really surprised by the prices, really not that much. I'm kind of surprised. Well, I guess I'm kind of surprised about they went to the 2 terabyte model instead of just gig. I figured they would just do 1 terabyte. But I don't know. Game Logic, what are your thoughts?
On the device in general, so
yeah, just in general. Or,
any of your thoughts, or anywhere else you want to take it. I mean, this is, unless you've talked about it on 3 other podcasts before tonight. So
no, I've talked about this at length in a couple of Discords today, though. So I mean, it's first of all, upgrading the SSD. It is not. This is, a lot of laptops these days will have it like you just flip the laptop over, you unscrew one compartment backing, and you have access to the SSD and sometimes the RAM. That tends to, you walk away from that and it tends to get worse the more of a unibody like design it is. But lots of laptops have that. This is not that. So to swap the SSD on this thing, you have to power it down, remove the back cover screws, which might be of different lengths in certain holes on the back. There's a battery that you have to disconnect, which is connected by thin wires. And then you have to unscrew the retaining screw on the stock SSD, remove the heat shield, put the heat shield on the new drive. So I don't know if that means it's a proprietary heat shield or it's a weird size or something like that, and put this thing back together. So my point is, like, swapping out the SSD is not even the DIY job level like it is like in a desktop, right? So I don't know how practically, and the huge problem with this, right, is that you're not adding storage, right? So you've paid $1,050 for a device with an SSD. You're going to pay full price for another SSD, and then the SSD that's in here you're just going to lose unless you have somewhere else to put it. So I don't know. Now it does have micro SD expandable storage. When I looked at it, I was like, okay, but like I'm not gonna get the 512 gigabyte, right, and then add a terabyte, the 512 gigabyte, and add a 1 terabyte like micro SSD card. In a handheld, that's an acceptable compromise to make, but for something that is a desktop, I'm like, no, I'm not. Like, this is not about me. I mean, you're gonna make some sacrifices in this because of form factor, but like, yeah, for me, there's just there's some ones. Admittedly, there's some onesie twosie like cherry picking compromises that I'm willing to make, and some that I'm not, and that's not a compromise I'm willing to make. So I looked at the 2 terabyte unit, and the problem for me was, so this is not a living room device for me. I don't game in my living room, because I keep all my gaming stuff in my room, like not publicly exposed. This was a device that I actually wanted to put right here where I'm podcasting tonight, where I have my Mac Mini M4 and an ultra widescreen monitor, and I have the Mac Mini M4 on one side, and I'm like, so this is a cute little cube that I could put over on the other side of the monitor, and then I could have my Mac Mini M4 over here for where I do like multimedia video editing stuff, and then I could flip the screen over to this cube to do some gaming. And I don't have to get up and go elsewhere in the room, right, to access a gaming machine. So it was kind of a neat little convenience thing. But like at $1,400, that is not an adjunct device. That is not a, hey, as a curiosity, let me buy a thing. It is not even, as a content creator, to me, it is not even personally like an investment to make just to be able to write reviews, right? It exceeds that threshold of something to tinker and mess with. If it were a high-end performing device, that would be different, right? If I were paying $1,500 to get like a new RTX card that other people didn't have, then that would be different. But to get a Steam machine, which is a mid-performance device that doesn't do anything new, like there's no new ray tracing on this, right? There's no new upscaling technology or anything like on this. It is a convenience appliance. So for me, it was just outside the window. Okay, so some of the reasons that it got cordoned off and fit outside my personal box is a bunch of niche stuff. But that's kind of I
don't know. I wouldn't call the money a niche piece, right? Like, I think there's a lot of people who are in a similar spot where they would be curious and interested if it could find a sweet spot in terms of prices, right? Like, there's plenty of gamers with disposable income that like new tech. But new tech, once it gets north of $1,000, even if it gets north of $800, suddenly it is not a one-off purchase. It is something you need to stop and think about.
Well, that's where I was going to go, right? What I was saying was, that's, because, all those use cases and scenarios as a reason why I cut it off are niche, but I'm like, that's where this device sits. It sits where it needs to fit in a niche of niches, right? It is probably nobody's Prime machine, right? So this is kind of like, and it's kind of funny, this is kind of like the Google Stadia discussion, right? For most people, that was never going to be their main. And the people who made that narrative up to discuss it as if it was an alternative to a main did exactly that. They made it up. And actually that takes me to this device. There are a lot of people making up a narrative in competitively comparing this thing to the PlayStation 5 Pro or other consoles. And I'm like, that was never the play. It was never an alternative to a console. Right? It was if it's an also to a thing you already have, it's probably an also to a PC, because it's probably an also to a person who is deeply invested in a Steam library. And I mean deeply, I mean more than even me, right? And when I say that, I mean, yes, I play a lot of Steam, I have a lot of Steam games, but I also buy some of my games from Epic, from the Xbox store, from GOG. This is for a person who probably like this is. I hate to pick on him, but let's take Swiss as an example, right? Swiss, who sometimes throws shade at other storefronts, right? This is the device for that person, right? Who literally has their entire PC digital collection in Steam. There starts to become a value prop for this, and let's say this person has one performant PC, right, in their game room. They're not planning on adding. They're not in the ballpark of like, they're not going to take their salvage parts and build a second PC or do all this kind of crazy stuff. They literally have one gaming PC. Along comes a device that says, "Hey, you can take your PC gaming experience and go ahead and move it to your living room." And that person goes, "Yeah, I play some of my PC gaming collection with a controller. So yeah, this would be kind of cool for me to put it out in the living room and kick back on the couch after a long, hard day at work and play some of my games out there, put it in Steam big picture mode." So this is the pitch to that type of person. I think some people will, for that, and this is a person who also is, what's the terminology I want to say, has a belief system where they live on PC as their gaming thing. Like, they're not going to buy a console. They're not looking at a PlayStation 5 Pro. They're not looking for that type of alternative. They religiously believe in what PC provides. That is a type of person who might still be interested in this device because they're not interested in all the other stuff, right? For reasons that they have. That's a thin niche. This may have originally been targeted at a person who was curious, as you mentioned, DBQ, who was going to toe dip, who was like, they have a PlayStation 5 Pro, or they have an Xbox, or they have something like, so there are people who had consoles who, when the Steam Deck came along and there was this increased interest in volume about handhelds, they became PC curious and said, yeah, let me go ahead and buy a Steam Deck and I'll check it out. And some of those people became very interested in PC gaming. And this is, partially where this thing might fit. As Valve said, it was because there were people who were on Steam Deck who said, hey, this would be really neat if we had this in a desktop form factor. At these prices, I don't think that fits anymore for those people. I think this is maybe still a play. And so here's the really big thing. And to me, like, if I were going to be very snarky about it, this is what I would say, because I would insist that I'm right, which I'm not, but I kind of am. But this thing is, and always has been, an alternative to the entry-level PC. That's it. It was never made to compete against the PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 5 Pro. It was never meant to compete against the Nintendo Switch. It was never meant to compete against the console. It was meant, maybe if anything, to be an add-on to a Steam Deck, right? Because you'd already picked that up as an adjunct to a big metal PC. But I mean, and for new people coming into the market who were maybe thinking about coming in as a PC, the value prop was, let me sell you a thing that allows you to push the easy button, and you don't have to go to PC Part Picker, and you don't have to spend like months swimming around on Ars Technica to figure out
the pitch was there, exactly as you're saying, right? Yeah.
And so at these prices, what does it mean? It's still a pitch, because there's entry level PC, which I wrote today is just something that I personally never recommend, because if you're new coming in the market, so I'm not talking about you guys because you guys have PCs as an alternative to console, as an add-on to consoles, right? But for a new person coming in, unless they are, at an age, right, before we really make money, right? Like that age where we're living paycheck to paycheck, and I generally don't recommend that they come in on an XX60 series GPU, right? Because I'm like, take your money, save for an extra payday, get an XX70 series GPU because that will have more legs, right? That will last you longer before you feel compelled, right, to upgrade because this is going to be your main thing. But if they're looking at an entry-level PC and they're like $1,000 or $1,500, you can get an entry-level PC, right, with an XX60 GPU for $1,500 because you can get a mid-grade PC with an XX70 GPU for $2,000. So now the value prop is, am I going to buy this thing at 2 terabytes? And there might be some compromises. You may not get a 2 terabyte, right, SSD. But again, now you're going into a form factor where adding an SSD, not swapping the SSD, adding the SSD is a very convenient thing. And so the value prop of this is still, you're thinking about getting into PC gaming. Let me offer you a thing that is competitively priced, in some cases may cost less. You don't have to do, right, all these gymnastics that a person generally has to do to figure out a thing, because the younger generation will tell you, well, all you need to do is go watch a YouTube video. That's not the case for everyone, and more so, not everyone wants to do that. You don't have to find a friend to be your tech advisor to go buy a pre-built and not get ganked, right, for your money. So I think there's still a value prop for this. Again, it gets niche and niche and niche and niche and niche. I originally projected that this thing was going to sell between 10 to 15 million units. I'm now thinking that this is more like a 5 million unit device. So again, it's not going to be huge on the landscape. It's not going to be like a big deal. Console players don't need to be insecure about their console purchase and look over their shoulders at what Steam is doing and feel threatened. It's not what this device is. It's just a niche play for people who have huge Steam libraries or people who are like super dedicated to getting into PC and are looking at doing this as an alternative to having to figure out how to build or take that risk, right? Because there is a risk involved with like procuring your own parts and trying to build your own PC if you don't have an in presence, right? A human like in your vicinity, like tech support, right? There's the notion that you're going to dork something up and you're going to want. I always tell people when you're building a PC, budget the money for your parts and budget another $500 because then that way, if you screw something up or if you get a part that's screwed up and you don't know how to troubleshoot it and you don't have spare parts to troubleshoot it, right? In my opinion, you don't want to send the thing back to Amazon, RMA it, wait for Amazon to process your RMA, test the equipment to tell you that you're not full of crap, and then send you a replacement unit, right? Just if you think it's the GPU, just buy a new GPU, right, and have it shipped and go through the RMA process in the background. So I think there's still a place for this. That place got skinny down today. The weird thing to me is you announced this on a Monday. I was hugely appreciative of it because what it does, I've got some free time coming up. So I was looking at like a few different purchases and I'm like, thanks very much for announcing this on a Monday. So I know I don't have to buy it. So I know I can allocate that budget, right, and point it in different directions. But I'm like, you announced this on Monday, like the day before Prime Day is going to start. And where we are now in the commercial retail space is because Amazon does Prime Day, now all of their competitors do something similar. So Amazon, Best Buy, and Walmart are about to rain a bunch of discounted electronics on the planet's surface. And you announce this thing at the price that it's at. And I'm like, again, there are tons, I think there are tons of people like me who are like, am I going to hold money in my pocket for a Steam machine? And if I don't buy a Steam machine, I think I'm going to, I don't know, buy an OLED monitor or, upgrade that phone that I've been looking at or, grab like an Apple product. And like today, again, thanks for announcing it early. You kind of made that decision for a bunch of people.
DB, any other comments on this one or retorts?
No, I appreciate
Game
Logic's commentary and analysis as always. But yeah, I think he's spot on in terms of of the challenge that this has in the marketplace at this point.
Yeah, I think it was tough for Valve for when they were going to announce this. Like, I don't think there was any kind of good time. Like, they just had to get it out there. I was like, well, I mean, just do it like a Band-Aid, just rip it off and do it. So
I might have, I mean, my only, not pushback, but my only thing is maybe I would have announced it last week. Like, clearly these things were out, right? People had them in their hands and they were reviewing them. So I'm kind of like, maybe I would have announced it close to the first, like close to payday, right? And gotten people to expend their money before Prime Day. I mean, that's the best. Like, I agree with you. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Right? That's the only slight optimization. And the last thing I'll say on this is, so I think for the people who go ahead and make this purchase, if they're making them for those reasons, I think they will find a rewarding experience. Like, I think if you buy a $1,000, $1,500 like PC as an appliance thing where all the work's done for you, I know at my age, that's certainly preferable to being hunched over a case for a couple of hours, right? Trying to get an SSD in or route a bunch of wires with my ham fist Frankenstein hands, right? And I'm like, so, that's good. If you have deep investment in the Steam ecosystem and your main PC is in your game room and you want to put this in your living room, I think you're going to have a great experience. I just think they've, cordoned a lot of the people, as you said, DBQ, who were like the ones who were curious about this, or even content creators who were thinking about dipping into this and maybe, influencing others to be, convinced of it. I think, you've cordoned a lot of those people off from that space.
Yeah, the only other thing I can think of that maybe they could have done is announce the frame first and then this one. Maybe it would have been a little bit, because I'm sure the frame is going to be, I'd say at least 1,500, if not, or at least around there. And I'm talking about their new VR headset. So, just so if no one else knows what the frame of the Valve frame is, so might have softened the blow a little bit. Obviously it's going to be probably more, but we'll see. Who knows how much that's going to be? But I'm assuming it's probably going to be up there too. All right, gents. If there's no more comments or anything on that one, let's jump on to the next news story. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more on the Steam Machine in the coming months. I forgot to look. Did they say a release date on the actual machine? Like, I know that was pre-orders, but
I think so. You have signups until the 25th. I can't remember if it's at 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. And then, like, at the moment signups close, they immediately go into a lottery. And they will randomly select people from the people who have signed up, I assume to max or near the max of the units that they have available, and send notifications out to those people to buy them. I believe they said like within a couple hours of it closing, and then I think, I'm not positive, I think they start shipping right away. Like, I don't think that there's like a huge time delay. So I didn't hear the June 30th date corroborated that I'd heard earlier, but that's what I'm gonna have in my mind is like the day I expect like the public to start getting these in their hands, but it may even be a little earlier than that.
Yeah, another week or so. All right. Yeah, I just saw the news. I didn't really get the chance to look into it other than just reading the articles really quick. So, it's going to be interesting. All right, let's jump into our next news story here. It's from Destructoid. EA just hedging their bets on in-game ads for their blurring the line between games and reality. And going into the article, be prepared to see a whole lot more advertisements in sports games, just like every single real-life match you get a chance to watch. In-game ads have been a thing for several years, but now EA is going all in and launching a entirely new platform, transforming how brands connect with the audience through digital and real-world experiences in this global profile of games. And they're talking more sports games here, which I was kind of thinking like, how is this going to work? But then it makes sense because, other than Battlefield, it's just their sports games as of late, at least the last few years, other than their little, indie titles that they have here and there. EA is pitching the program called EA Advertising as a huge opportunity for brands to reach consumers, and definitely makes sense with the sheer number of players who buy sports games like Madden, FC, college football, and NHL, sports every year. There's a whole lot of eyes on the potential ads. EA Advertising is expanding EA's ecosystem by enabling brands to integrate directly into the gameplay through dynamic real-time placements from stadiums, signage to custom in-game content designed to enhance, not disrupt the player experience, EA said in a statement today. So it sounds more, and even kind of going further in the article, it sounds more than it's just like they mentioned, like signs, and obviously, you know, players have their advertisements on their uniforms depending on the sport. But look like there'll be environments too. They go on to say, in these interactive gameplay environments, brands become part of the game itself, reflecting how players engage with advertising in real world contexts. Brands that activate across live environments, tailoring placements to meet campaigns to meet objectives, and update campaigns with ongoing optimization, blah blah blah. So yeah, and they mentioned one of the I think they mentioned, what was it, college football. There's a Mountain Dew Universe. Now I know you guys play college football. Is that like a separate area within the game you can go into, or like what is that exactly when they're talking about the Mountain Dew University here?
I haven't particularly seen it, but this is. I'm sorry. Were you going to add something?
No, because I don't remember it in 25 or 26. It might be new for 27.
Yeah.
So this is the wariness, right? So more and more and more and more, and we have a strong sports theme when we get to segment 3 tonight. More and more and more and more EA sports games are, and NBA 2K, although it's a different program because obviously they don't have Ultimate Team, but more and more some of these sports games are forcing you to navigate through the Ultimate Team or the monetization BS and forcing you to engage with it. And what I mean by that is, in Madden, thank goodness, for now, you're presented the Ultimate Team thing at first, but you can hit the B button and back out of it, right? So you boot the game. The first thing you're presented with is an Ultimate Team splash screen with all the bazonga crap on it, right? Then you can hit, you can hit basically what I call the I don't want to engage with this button and hit B, and then it takes you right back to like the main screen. But in other games like Football Club and NBA 2K, I'm pretty sure does this too. So all of these things now have this, what I'll call the soft battle pass in it, right? Which is the Ultimate Team seasonal content drop thing or whatever, where there's a free tier and you don't have to pay anything for it. But where they're pushing now is they now want to force you to engage with that, right? So in Football Club, I'm not sure if it goes all the way this way, but NBA 2K, it definitely does. Now you get that splash screen. There's no B button to back out of it. So you have to, like in F1, same thing. It would present the splash screen, but and you could hit the A button and basically initiate your entry into the free tier of the battle pass, right? So it started tracking all that, right, and presented it to you periodically, or you could choose just not to engage with it at all, and you could hit the B button. More and more frequently now, I'm seeing that these sports games don't give you the B button to back out of that Ultimate Team, seasonal battle pass, free tier, whatever splash screen, and it's presented to you when you boot the game, so you cannot navigate past it or around it. I'm pretty sure that's where this stuff is going to go, right? I'm pretty sure there's going to be advertisement space, right? Because, I mean, how does advertising work? Mountain Dew isn't going to pay you for ads when those ads are optional for somebody to skate by. They're only going to pay for the ads if you force people, right, to pass by their windshield. So that's my fear of where this stuff is going to go. There's a certain way that it could be organic where this stuff would be okay. And one of the reasons I laugh at this, because the game that they don't bring up is F1. I'm like, in F1, the entirety of all like the vinyls and all that stuff, like there's a sponsorship section, and you have to engage with it because that's how you make money. You make money because the sponsors pay you for achieving certain goals. And then they have the vinyls that you apply to the car, right? And then like if you've ever watched Formula One, especially, but really any kind of race, like their entire suits like are covered, right? And I think you guys have watched The Boys too, but the guy from Teen Kicks or whatever, who's like the flying guy, who has the suit, who has like all the advertisements all over his suit, like that's what their racing suits are like. So there's a way that this stuff, like you mentioned, is organic and it kind of works, but it sounds like there's going to be an extra hook to like force people to interact with it that I think, you know, has the chance for where it's going to get obnoxious and kind of go off the rails and get out of bounds.
I mean, those kind of battle passes, seasonal things are. I mean, Madden 26 does that as well. That you can't escape out of it if you come into a new season. You've got it there. I am really curious to see where this goes, because on its face, I'm not too worried about it, because there is some natural real life connection for sports, right? Like NBA 2K from, you know, visual concepts, and 2K has all the NBA jerseys, which all have sponsorships on them. Every team has a sponsorship, and you know, that's probably all just part of their NBA license. But I can totally see this in Madden, where in the stadium it's going to have different ads on the, you know, on back behind the score, behind the goal, or the, you know, goalpost, and or that your halftime show, which people skip over, is going to be brought to you by somebody, right? Which is also true. You know, the Toyota halftime show happens on every NBC Sunday Night Football game, right? Like that is part of sports themselves. I think it'll be interesting. I heard somebody talk about this on a podcast, right? Like when FanDuel becomes a sponsor and you can click a button to start betting, you know, maybe that's a little different. But you know, there's a lot of ways where it can feel organic. And but there's also things like within the Ultimate Team's ecosystem infrastructure that you were talking about, Game Logic. There's been times in Madden where there's been a Gatorade team pack and you can get cards out of it, right? Like there are plenty of places where they could do this. It also makes sense if you're looking for more revenue off of your annualized franchises, that this seems like especially at a time when they're about to be bought and go through regulation, that this seems like a logical thing. I think the piece that thankfully we are all gamers of a certain age, and we remember when I mean, I can remember Burnout Paradise having ads for Obama in it, and other billboards that had Coca-Cola or other ads in it, right? Like this is not new to EA, but it's been a while since they've come to this well. I think it's also the infrastructure and the technology is there in such a way now where it wasn't in the aughts, where those sponsors should be able to rotate in and out. That, you know, a 3-week sponsorship could cost X amount, or you know, it's not going to be hard loaded onto the disk. It's going to be something that is updated server side and can swap out when that sponsorship ends out. You know, back to Game Logic's point with F1. I mean, thinking about 2K Sports and PGA does this as well. Like you're sponsored, and so does NBA. That you've got sponsorships for, you know, your different shoes, and in PGA Golf you've got clothing lines and balls and your clubs all have different potential sponsorships, which is all makes sense within the dynamics of a game. So I'll be really curious to see how this plays out, and how, as Game Logic said, how in your face and unavoidable they kind of force some of it to be.
Yeah, I was also thinking of like NBA, because I just picked up the NBA 26, I think it was, earlier in the year. When you're doing when you're in that online hub, like they have like a little, you know, Adidas store or Nike store or stuff like that, where you can buy their stuff with the in-game currency. Obviously, you can, you know, pay real money to get that in-game currency, but you can, you know, do challenges and stuff, and they'll give you things. I wonder if they'll try to start to do things like that more. Like I don't know. I haven't played Madden, all these other games in a while, but I don't think there's any kind of like hub world like that, like they have in 2K26, within the EA Sports universe. But I can see them maybe doing something like that. Like maybe that's what the Do University is going to be. It's going to be like a little side thing you can go into and, you know, do some goofy challenges, and you get, like, you know, a Mountain Dew jersey or something like that. You know, and obviously they're still advertising, you know, in there. So it'll just be interesting to see, you know, how far they take this in the EA Sports world. But go ahead, Game Logic. Were you gonna say something?
One aside I was going to do, there's actually like a few news stories that probably didn't make the rundown just because of where they came out. I do want to also take this moment to throw complete shade at EA Sports, maybe Codemasters too, but I'll put it on EA that, as mentioned, there is no F1 2026 this year. There's an F1 25 2026 season upgrade pack. So they did not release a new version of F1 this year. They released a DLC pack that upgrades 2025. I should say upgrade, that adds a 2026 season pack to 2025. For people who are Formula One fans, there are the greatest number of rules and engineering changes in Formula One that have ever entered the sport in like over a decade. So it is a significantly different racing thing. This pack is $24.99. I thought that it initially released at $29.99. So I think politically they dropped it by $5 maybe. But at least it's $24.99. You cannot continue if you have made a create a team franchise team in the original release, you cannot move that into the 2026 DLC pack. You have to, so you can't carry your upgrades that you've done and your progression. If you've done, because F1 has this thing where you can run a team with another person, so it has a co-op franchise mode. I think it's like one of the only ones like in a sports game going today. You cannot move that into 2026. The 2026 DLC pack, if you want to play with all the new rules and everything, requires you to start a new create a team. So I was already salty about that they weren't releasing F1 2026. What they have done with this pack is even worse. I do not throw around the anti-consumer terminology like lightly. This firmly crosses that threshold of like this is just complete bull hockey, right? So at any rate, I just wanted to go ahead and squeeze that rant in there while we were on that topic.
No problem. All right, gentlemen, you got any other comments on this one? If not, if you want to jump into Game Logic, if you want to jump into the last news story, some Sony news here, or I don't know if it's actually news, but Sony going ons.
So this is a news story over on Push Square by Sammy Barker. There's no ambiguity in Sony's strategy, trusted journalists on PS5's exclusivity approach after wishy-washy CEO statement. For the first time today, PlayStation CEO Hideki Nishino commented publicly on Sony's decision to stop releasing its first-party single-player games on the PC. However, his comments failed to really rule anything out and certainly didn't come across as decisive as the original reporting from Bloomberg had seemed. Now writing on the Recent Era forums, trusted journalist Jason Schreier has moved to defend his story, saying there's no ambiguity in Sony's strategy. His quote here is, I guess they're not going to lay this out publicly, but there's no ambiguity in their strategy. During a town hall a few weeks ago, Herman Hulse told staff that their single-player narrative games will be PlayStation only, and he explained that they were inconsistent with their PC releases. They didn't make enough money. They want to keep their IP aligned to their own platform. I confirm this with two people who heard him say it. There's no case-by-case here. So, look, my personal feeling on it is again, I'll go back to some of the commentary going on around this. There are people in both Team Green tribes and Team Blue tribes who are very hyper-concerned about the interpretation of this and very hyper-concerned about labeling one interpretation correct and the other interpretation wrong. What the way I look at it is what is the business imperative of both businesses? And I've had this conversation when I talk about like publishing games on other platforms, that there's some people who feel that like what PlayStation is doing is exactly the same as what Xbox is doing, just because of tipping the binary edge that a PlayStation game was published to another platform. That is squeezing all of the nuance and context and like sophistication out of the conversation in a way that, in my opinion, just kind of waters it down and dumbs it down for political purposes. The difference in the Xbox, it's case by case statement, and in the statement here, in my opinion, is that what is the default? The default at PlayStation, in my mind, the way I have it rigged, the way I perceive it is that when you come up to greenlight meetings, right, into your program management review and your milestone checkpoint about your games, and in particular your first one where you're getting a project greenlit, is there's no time in that meeting spent discussing whether or not this thing is being published to PC, right? I think that conversation comes later, after it has already been published on PlayStation and it's in its tail. And the reason that's a huge difference is because when it happens at the initial greenlight meeting, is that it will gate and shape the way that game is designed from the very beginning. There will be concern shown about choices that are made, technical choices that are made based on what platforms it's going to. Whereas I think the point at PlayStation continues to be they want their teams head down, focused on getting this game onto PlayStation and not distracted by anything else. At Xbox, I believe today that at the initial greenlight meeting, maybe at meeting number 2, there's a discussion about whether or not this thing is going to other platforms, mainly being PlayStation. Because at Xbox, everything is going to PC. That's not a question, which again, so I don't understand why people are wrapped around the axle about the interpretation of this in terms of Sony sending its games over to PC. All Xbox games are going to PC. So there's no need for that conversation to happen. In my mind, at Xbox, there's a very, very early discussion about whether or not a game is going to PlayStation 5, because I believe there needs to be. Otherwise, you can do what I call, in my world, coding yourself into a corner. You can make technical choices ignorant of the fact that this thing is going to other platforms, and then wind up creating a lot more work for yourself by a certain implementation style if that game also needs to go to PlayStation, where it will exist and ride on a different abstraction layer and have other things presented to it in terms of technical implementation like PSSR. So again, I think that's the difference. I think that there is a difference. I think that the case by case at PlayStation and the, we will carefully choose what games like that verbiage is wildly different from the two platform owners. I don't think that they are the same. I don't think just because PlayStation is not ruling out a game going to PC that makes it exactly the same thing as what Xbox is saying. Again, at Xbox, the default is that a thing is going to PC. At PlayStation, at a single player narrative game, there's a 10% chance that it's going to PC. I think for the consumers, again, are you going to hedge your bet that a PlayStation first-party single-player narrative game is going to show up on PC and therefore not buy a PlayStation and hold your breath for 2 years waiting to see if it shows up on PC? I mean, that's a choice to make. I don't think that's the option they're presenting consumers. I think the option that they're presenting consumers is that if you want to know if PlayStation first-party narrative games are important to you, I think what they're telling you is that if you want a 100% chance that you're going to be able to play them, buy a PlayStation. If you want to take a gamble and take a risk and win your gamble sometimes and lose your gamble other times, and you're okay with that, then don't buy a PlayStation and just be on PC. And like I said, hold your breath for 2 or 3 years and see if the game shows up. I think I've had a lot of philosophical dialogue recently about life expectancy and the opportunities that we have, and like what happens when you make choices to not engage, like, or miss something, right? And then like what that may mean. So I think if there are things that are important to you, you should seize the opportunity to engage with them as soon as possible, because you don't know how life is going to unfold and whether or not you're just going to miss that opportunity. If you're a person who likes to hold your breath for 2 years or a console generation or the duration of Phil Spencer's regime to see if something is going to happen and turn around and be different than it is today, then that's a choice to make. But so consumers should be informed and make prudent choices. I don't know. Anything else you guys want to
add? DB, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, I Game Logic's point there is well made, right? Like, I think it is pretty clear in terms of if you want to play some PlayStation games, you better own a PlayStation.
Yeah, definitely. And sorry, Henry Heck and Here Down Under, Real and Nate, thanks for joining us. I kind of missed you guys when you jumped in there. We've been having some discussions here for in the new segment. So just wanted to say I'm glad you joined us tonight. All right. Let's jump into, I believe that was our last news story. Yes. Let's jump into our segment 3, our last segment, regular rundown and round robin. I'm going to start off. I jumped into a couple of VR games actually this past weekend, past few days. The first one, and I'll talk about the other one a little bit later. Asgard's Wrath 2 on the Quest 3. Both of these on the Quest 3. This was just a single player kind of narrative story. Kind of, I never played the first one, the original Asgard's Wrath. So going into this one, I was like, wow, this is kind of God of War, basically in VR. A lot in the story too, especially in this, I think, second one. But it's pretty enjoyable so far. Like, you're this, I guess, demigod for better or worse, for terminology's sake, going through this Viking-esque, obviously because it's Asgard world, and fighting these different entities. There's the whole story with Loki in here, so obviously since it's a Viking lore, but you have different weapons you can use. I'm actually dual wielding, I think, a sword and an axe right now. And, you get different abilities, and obviously since it's in VR, it's all in, well, I shouldn't say obviously, but most of the time you're in first person in most VR games. So, and this is no exception. So, gameplay is actually really smooth. This was, I believe this was Meta's first party studios, one of their first party studios.
Yep, and it's one of the studios that got closed down as well.
Yeah, so kind of a bummer, because I mean it's pretty high quality.
The first one was amazing. I really enjoyed the first one. But
did you play any of the second one?
I've never played the second. Nope.
You haven't played the second one? Okay. Yeah, but it's from the games I've played, it's pretty solid. Probably on par with, like, I know Batman gets a lot of praise on VR. I think I played the demo of that one maybe, but I would say this is on par. And this was early on in the Quest 3. Actually, I think I got it as like a pack-in, basically, when I bought the Quest 3. I just finally had a chance to get around to play it, so I was kind of itching for some VR gameplay, and this was right up my alley, so I want to jump into it. But yeah, gameplay is really tight. Graphics look really good. Obviously it's not PC quality or anything. I'm just playing natively on the Quest 3. I don't think it was ever released on PC as far as I know, or you can.
I don't think so. No, it stayed on the Quest 3. Yeah.
So, but yeah, having a good time with it, and gonna kind of keep plugging away at it.
So talk to me about Totally Baseball. So is that like the home run derby? I know there's a home run derby, or is it a full on game? Are you pitching and batting and fielding?
Yeah, actually now you can do everything. Like when I originally played this, I think it was late last year when I picked it up. It was basically just kind of like batting practice. You go into this batting practice field. You're just hitting. I think there's like a home run derby mode you can do too. Otherwise, you just practice hitting. But now it's like full on baseball. You can do. You can set it to field. I think you could set it to field by itself, but I just have it set it manually. And then there's also like it's like a glowing ring on the field, like where it's going to fall, which I'm keeping on right now for now. Just kind of get used to it. So, but yeah, you can, throw and, you just do everything you can in baseball. There is, for throwing, you can actually have like it basically looks like a Mega Man arm cannon that you can use to, like shoot the ball, to the bases and stuff like that. Or you can change it just a regular thrown motion. So I haven't tried the regular thrown motion just because I kind of wanted to get used to the controls, but it's pretty good. You can do 3, 6, or a full 9 innings of baseball. And you can pick a specific position to play, or you can, as you're playing, it just kind of switches you to the, that position. So when you're on defense, it's going to put you on as the pitcher automatically, and then when the ball gets hit, it'll just like switch you to outfield and for wherever it's going to go. So it's kind of nice. You don't have to mess with that. It's an automatic thing. And then same thing, like when you're batting, you actually doing the running. You can either do just like push the sticks forward, or you can actually you move your arms and you'll actually run. So I have it just the sticks right now. I don't really want to do the running thing, at least right now. But it's pretty decent. The little buggy here and there, like the weird, like there's like a wild pitch at one point, and like it was clearly a ball. Like they show you like a little batter's box, the strike zone. It's like a red box that you can see, and it was clearly underneath it. It was a wild pitch, and it went past the pitcher, and I was just kind of standing there waiting for them to get the ball to throw it in. Like I don't know why it wasn't just automatic, but and I swung after it had already gone past me, and they called it a strike. I was like, wait a minute, guys, like that's a little weird, that's a little odd, but yeah, those are the kind of quirky things like that. It was just kind of goofy, but yeah, it's a really fun baseball game to play in VR. I don't think I've ever seen like a full-on baseball. I don't know if you've ever seen any full-on baseball games before in VR. Characters are kind of like almost like Mii's basically in their look, kind of just like kind of pear-shaped body with no arms or legs, but there's you can see the hands and stuff. So, but yeah, it's a pretty decent baseball game for VR. I'm really enjoying it. Game Logic. Sorry, I kind of jump past you, or if you're ready to talk about some sports games. Actually, you and DB here in a second.
Yeah, I won't take a lot of time because I took a lot of Steam Machine and PlayStation exclusive time. So yeah, EA Sports FC 26 is going well. I'm enjoying the feel for the game. The sliders, I feel like the sliders are good, but like the tolerance of sliders on FC 26 are such that like tweaking sliders can mean the difference between winning a game 1-0 and losing the next game 3-0. So like it's painful to sometimes play with sliders in football club, but I'm enjoying the feel right now. DBQ, how is your season going in Madden?
In Madden, my current season online franchise, we did a fantasy draft, and so you draft 55 different players, and so it's all mixed up in terms of nobody's on any one team, and it's been kind of fun to play that way after playing decades of seasons of straight up teams and rebuilding, but making it through. Definitely looking ahead to NCAA college football coming out early in July.
You and I have both been playing Madden in college football for the last couple of years. We have not engaged in the MVP bundle. I guess that's not really something you're really considering because you were a subscriber to like the Uber EA Play, right? Oh no, dropped off of that?
Oh yeah, I've dropped off of that way back in the early 2020s. This year I am buying, so I went back through my catalog, my orders. The last Madden that I bought on Xbox was Madden 22, or Madden 23 in 22. How about that? With Madden on the cover, and then I usually just end up waiting for when it hits Game Pass. But since I am dropping Game Pass Premium and just going to basic Game Pass when my subscription runs out in July, and also because this is going to be my last EA Madden that I'm going to buy, if they go through with the purchase to Saudi Arabia PFI. So I did end up buying the full-on MVP bundle in order to basically just own them. So that's where I'm looking forward to it. I have been very fine playing previous seasons or playing, doing the 10-hour trial and then waiting it out. But this year I'm jumping on right at the get-go.
No, that's a good discussion. I have, not yet. I gave strong consideration to pulling that trigger this year because I was like, okay, the last 2 years, like you've done this thing. Well, I've played EA College the last 2 years. Last year, I also picked up Madden. So I'm like, okay, now am I like in the veil enough to warrant, like, to justify the MVP? I'm still not, because right now, like for instance, I'm playing Madden on Xbox, but I'm playing college football on PlayStation. So I think I still want to maintain that flexibility, and so we'll see what happens there. For me in general, things are going good. I am in my second franchise season with the Cincinnati Bengals. We were 9-8 last season, spoiled in the season end game by the Cleveland Browns. And then we had them for the season opener this year and wound up beating them, I think 12-7. So again, same thing. Like this is the wonder, like the things that's pleasant about playing both of them is I picked up that like I realized I was using the revamp passing in college football. I switched it to precision and in Madden, then switched it to college football. Learned some more things about using precision passing in college football that then I like ported back to Madden. So yeah, I'm having a pretty good experience with it. And the running game was great this year. I hear it's the defense that's being tightened this year, I think. So it should
a lot of the developer stuff and the positive stuff coming out of the beta sounds like a lot of some good improvements on defense, and also some ability to show one defense at the line and make a switch out of formation, where you could make some adjustments, but not necessarily totally switch formations. And so that's being added as well.
Yeah, you could flip sides, but it sounds like you're being able to do more what you can do in the real NFL, which is, show blitz initially, but then he sends somebody in motion, and then you can suddenly switch your formation to a different look. So that should be pretty awesome. If you want me to keep going, Tao, I'll wrap up, I think, with NBA 2K26. Again, not a lot to say here. I'm in my second franchise season there. Not my second franchise season, but I've gone back to my franchise season with the OKC Thunder. It was interesting, DBQ, that you mentioned, they have advertising, because I definitely noticed that I have like the Lowe's patch on my guys' uniform. Again, the joy in like spending time with these things is, again, you learn a little more, and so you're able to eke out a little more enjoyment about them. This was a game that initially I was like, man, it feels like this game is like slowed down and so like heavy that like there's no real like fast break to it anymore, which is kind of what the old NBA games on from EA used to be like. But I feel like I've kind of unlocked that a little bit now. Like I've learned the controls a little bit better. Going back to Madden, also I've figured out like a little slightly different effective paradigm in play calling than I had been using, because my play calling had not been effective. Like I'm like, this Joe Burrow guy is supposed to be like a 99 quarterback. Like, why is he not like connecting with his receivers? But and same thing for my defense too. My play calling algorithm was not great. But on NBA 2K, I think I've also my big flummox in NBA 2K was I just didn't have enough feel for the game to have any sense for like how I wanted to manage my battle rhythm. Meaning like okay, I'm going down the court this time. Am I going to go for a 3-pointer? Am I going to go for a mid-range field goal? Or am I going to try and drive within the paint? Like that, just like there was never like any kind of decisiveness about that for me, and I think I've kind of worked that out in my head. So, yep, having a good time with all those.
What difficulty do you guys play on Madden or college? I guess either. It's probably the same. Or is it? Do they have like a dynamic difficulty, like an
No,
MLB
it's
show?
usually like 4 or 5 different presets in terms of difficulty. I usually play. I've done some franchises on all Madden. Usually, I ramp up to that after playing a few seasons on All Pro, the one before it.
Nice.
And I tweak my sliders, and quite honestly, with all the sports games I've been playing, I am like, there are some sports games, in fact, most that I was used to, it's like you pick a difficulty and then you can still tweak sliders. So it still shows like your base difficulty. A lot of these sports games now, like you go to tweak a slider and it just goes to custom, and it doesn't even refer to like a difficulty level. And quite honestly, tonight I'm like, I'm forgetting like which one does that. So I want to say I think on Madden and college, I think I started at Pro, and then I'm like tweaking sliders. So I think that's where I am.
Nice. Yeah, I think I might actually pick it up this year. It's been a while since I played a Madden, other than just like a demo or something, or when it went on free. Excuse me, when I had it on Game Pass. So, plus, cover athletes, Chicago Bears' very own Caleb Williams this year. So
there you go. It's a reason to do it.
That's right. All right. So last one real quick that I've been playing. Marvel Rivals, I've been playing that for a while, but they had their season 8.5 updates, I think a couple weeks ago now, or a week ago, where they added Cyclops from the X-Men. So he is a duelist, which is basically like a DPS character in other hero shooter type of games. I've been playing them, when I can choose them, if I get to it fast enough. I've been playing them quite a bit. So yeah, he's quite something. Quite, I want to say overpowered, but really, I mean, a lot of them, as long as you kind of look up who can counter them, you can just pick that character, and they can probably take him out, and they can take him out pretty quickly. I know Black Panther can get to him pretty quickly. Wolverine's another one. Kind of has kind of like a dash that can kind of pull out of your team, or out of the way sometimes, and just kind of just rip you apart. So, but yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with Cyclops, and his ultimate's pretty decent. Kind of has like a giant. If you know his powers that he has, the ruby glasses that controls his power, his kind of red shot that he shoots out. Not really a laser. It's more like a concussive thing, like a force that he shoots out. Guy just shoots out in a straight beam, and kind of like you see like the ground kind of like there's like a trail where it leaves off and then it explodes like after like a second or two. So it's pretty decent. So I've been having a lot of fun with him. So
yeah, I've seen some gameplay with him. Like his movement with being able to use the blast as like a vertical movement looks pretty interesting.
Yeah, he's got a couple of kind of escape moves that he can do. Yeah, that blast, and he can kind of shoot himself backwards. So he's got a good escape, and a couple of moves where it's kind of ricochets off the walls or like different stuff on the playing field. So you can hit multiple enemies. So yeah, he's pretty good. So that is it for our round robin. Let's jump into significant releases for the coming week. We have Dead or Alive 6 last round coming out for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC coming out on June 25th. So a few days here. And then also June 25th is Star Fox coming for the Switch 2, also on June 25th. So out of those two, I will be picking up Star Fox because I did enjoy at least the first game back in the day. I don't know if you gentlemen are going to pick up any of these two or anything else of significance to you this coming week. DB?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Game.
As of right now, no. But you never know when the FOMO will hit me. I would have said, earlier this month, I would have definitely said Star Fox, but now I'm unsure. Did you have you played? Tao, have you played the Nintendo Switch Online OG Star Fox that they just put in?
No, I didn't know they put it in.
Yeah, Star Fox 64 is on the online. Yep.
Nice. I'll have to check that out maybe before I play this one, just to compare, to see. How about you, DB? Anything you'll be picking up this week?
No, not really. Not in the big releases. There's a couple indie ones that I was looking at, but nothing too big. I still got plenty of things to chip away at. So,
yes. Game Launcher, were you going to say something or? Oh, I thought you were you kind of got close to the mic.
Leaning forward, like, hey. No, I'm just reading the text chat here, and Soldier for Life is throwing down about starting a Madden league, so which is great.
Yeah, I think he and I play some of the same. We alternatively play some of the same teams. I think maybe we both play the Cincinnati Bengals. But I think he plays LSU, whereas I play against LSU because I'm playing the Missouri Tigers right now. So yeah, we're just going back and forth, alternating between throwing each other shade and hand clasping on playing similar teams. So yeah, no, I was leaning forward so I could see my keyboard because the microphone's in between me and my keyboard.
All right, gents. So that is it for this week for episode number 438. Next week, we should be back on Sunday at our normal time, 8 Eastern, with DBQ Hams as the primary host and myself and Game Logic, most likely there as co-pilots. Any last words, gentlemen, before we head out? No? All right. Thanks, everybody who joined us in the comments. Soldier, Henry Heck, Hero Down Under, Innate. I know they dropped by. It's Thrifty. He was... at the beginning of the show here. Please check us out next week, or if you've missed any episodes or of the past shows, please check us out on the Video On Demand, YouTube, SoundCloud, and other podcasting forums. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me tonight on episode number 438. Play those games out there, and we will see you next week. So long, everyone.